Yeah. This whole refusing to enforce the actual laws, fraud laws and forgery laws, every one of those court orders, if it's not her actual signature, is a fraudulent order of the court. Now, I know that I've asked you to enforce the laws, yeah, and you decided that you just wouldn't. You refused to enforce the laws of this state and the United States. Now, when you refuse to do something and it's a requirement of law, and then you make up some sort of bullshit about, well, you have to motion the court. I don't motion a court that doesn't do what the law requires. The ordinary process of the ordinary judicial process. Now, it's kind of disconcerting because all of those that are employed in the White House will end up going to prison because the president doesn't want the militia or the United States armed and. Um, well, do you think President Donald Trump wants to go to prison? Do you think he wants to do that? When I have documented the fraud and forgery, ooch, and you think, well, we're just going to wait till Monday. Is that what you decided? Now, I really I actually like having a place to sleep, but I don't like to sleep on a pad on a hardwood floor. Yes. And I have told you that I wanted my ooch. Um, I wanted my victims' rights enforced. Yes. Now, when are you, Sheriff, going to stop refusing to enforce the law and start filing some criminal complaints? Now, I know the prosecuting attorney in both Clallam and Jefferson County, Mr. Hawes and Mr. Nichols, the thought of prosecuting their own co-workers. But Mr. Baisden, yes, there is no allowing for a minute order. Now, I can go through this, and if you don't do it today, I probably will tomorrow. But I could say that, oh, this was fraudulent, and this was fraudulent, and this was fraudulent, and this was fraudulent. Or you could decide to remove it. Now, what individual is going to tell Brent Baisden to remove his fraudulent protection order? And then what person is going to tell Judge Rohrer to remove his fraudulent dissolution of marriage? Now, the refusing, ooh, a refusal, refusal hearing, oh, refusal to deal, ooch. That it's not in right to first refusal, yeah. A company's decision not to do business with another company, unjust rejection, ooch, unnecessary guarantee to ensure the rejection can carry out an illegal. Um, hmm, hmm. well, you failed, you refused, and you will not enforce the laws. Now, I'm wanting to file some lawsuits, and when it gets to the point that it's an actual order of the White House to have to enforce state laws and federal laws, you can really. Um, well, the damages are in the hundreds of billions of dollars, and if the president decided to not do that, um, there's what's known as the rebellion, an open, organized, and armed resistance to establish government or ruler. Yes, especially an organized attempt to change the government or leader of a country, usually through violence. Open resistance or opposition to an authority or tradition. Yes. Historically, disobedience of a legal command or summons. Pooch. Let's say that the president did issue an executive order, or maybe even Governor Jay Inslee or any governor of any state, considering it's federal, and you decided that you weren't going to enforce it. You were going to rebel, being disobedient to any command or summons from any oath of office in authority in all 50 states and the White House. Pooch. Now, this open, organized rebellion against the Constitution of the United States, where you would rather enforce fraudulent court orders that are fraud on the court. Now, we have to consider what kind of rebellion are we having. The rebellion in the sheriff's department. What kind of rebellion are you in? Uh, did you plan on organizing an armed resistance to the establishment of the United States of America's government? Quite a few times we've had to go through the actual guns, yes, of those in office. And you have established a militia other than the National Guard. Was it that time that we take over the government and we take over the White House? Ooch. Now, there could be some monsters out there that said, well, let's get our guns and let's do it. Okay, let's do it. But I'm one of these citizens that as soon as you bring out a gun, you get them. Well, let's look at it for just a second. Okay. Um, of all the sheriffs in the United States, yes, they all have their guns registered, don't they? Get me all the gun permits again. Ooch. Of every oath of office, all. Of every attorney, judge, and justice, yes. Of every sheriff, every FBI agent, all federal and state employees. Pooch. And let's run through all the guns that you have registered. Now, I already talked to you about that. Guns are not a currency. But somebody was paying for certain shows? Yes. Now, it says, so hinders the execution of the laws of that state, uh, and of the United States within the state, that any part or class of its people is deprived of a right, privilege, immunity, or protection named in the Constitution and secured by law. Now, these right, privileges, and immunities, yes, that you're depriving me of, is named in all 10 of the 10 amendments of the Bill of Rights. You know, you violated most all of those, in fact, all of them, and some of them multiple times. Yes. And the additional 17 amendments that were adopted after the adoption of the Civil Rights Act. Now, why don't you tell me where your guns are at? Did you want to have an armed resistance? You know, do you have a lot? Oh my gosh, the National Guard armories, that's a good idea. Coach, why doesn't the United States military go through the actual purchases of the National Guard of the United States Homeland Security? Disagreeing with this? Why don't we get the actual armaments of Homeland Security and the National Guard and the location of where all your guns are, all your bullets? Did you get some tanks? You know, I was thinking about an experience that I had when I was on Guam. It was called SWAT. Yes. And what they would do, they would load one individual through the lizard in his ass. Yes. And then they would all jump on me at the same time, and they called it a SWAT team. Yeah. So as to cause me to get very angry in a very short period of time. Now, when well, you wouldn't want that now, would you? Now, in any situation, the state shall be considered to have denied the equal protections of law secured by the Constitution. Yes, the words militia or the armed forces are substituted with the words military forces. That would be Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Air Force, Marines. There's Army, Navy, Air Force. There's actually four of them, isn't there? Yep. Now, obstruction of justice, what unlawful obstruction of justice? Now, hang on here. I know. Well, there's a proc number 3795 in the state of Michigan. Proclamation dispersed. Now, these insurgents, immediately order the insurgents to disperse and retire peaceably to their boats for a limited time. We're declaring martial law, are we? All of a sudden, the sheriff's department start not count the number of bullets. And if the army shows up, for the monster family, yes. That said, when push comes to shove, we're going to have to take over. Yeah. Oh, we're really not. Oh. Um, I just wanted you to know that, okay? That I'm going to need all your guns and for every individual that they arrest, yes, that is or is not the actual elected oath of office in an insurrection. Why don't you tell me where your guns are at? And get me the National Guard armories and all these rebellions against, we're not going the way. Now, for Mike Van Proyner's super top secret security clearance of all of those in the way, you thought you'd make it. 10,000 clones of real soldiers. They look like soldiers, but they're really designed to kill people. You know, there's one thing to make a fish look alike so that she'll suck your dick. Yes. It's another thing to make a man that you know you're not going to have sex with so that oh, you fucked them all in the ass, did you? You know, when you think about it, I had heard that somebody was making clones of every attractive woman that they had seen on Facebook or had knowledge of because of modeling. In fact, yesterday I was doing some research. Yes. And my Oh, you didn't make any man model clones that you were going to fuck in the ass, did you? You made yourself a little army, didn't you? See, there's a difference between the best of the boobs of 2016, yes, and then the best. Oh, well, why don't you get me all the guns of all your clones? Right the fuck now.